Greetings, every people. It's your cult personality here. ToonKritic's name. Toon's name.
No, that had to be an accident. That is an accident.
That better have been an accident, Bliss.
No.
Can I just go one round table where I don't get interrupted?
I didn't mean to.
Keep that in. We are gonna keep going.
Whatever. Welcome back to Roundtable's Magic, the show where we take a look at My Little Pony Season 6 and currently Season 2. We have been trudging along with Season 2, and as we have learned the air date for Season 7, that means we must start wrapping up Season 2. Fitting that one of the most requested episodes, and not only most requested guests you guys are going to get, will be on this episode. So, joining me today is Lightning Bliss.
Excuse me.
Yeah, both of us are kind of slightly sick, but we're powering through for this. We have Golden Fox.
I still find it surreal of how this podcast is going now, because stuff. I can't talk too much right now.
We have British Ninja.
Bless you, Lightning.
Thank you.
And
Would you like a hanky?
I got one.
Now, during the recording of this, Keyframe currently is not here. She is actually on her way to Germany. And Voice is not here due to family stuff. So, we've packed up a few replacement buddies. Firstly, replacing Voice of Reason, we have Jasper Pie.
The Fez has made a comeback! Again!
And replacing Keyframe, the very first guest that we ever had on Roundtable is Magic, Doublestinator, aka Thespio.
We are not worthy.
Hello, it's great to be back, hombres.
And, of course, last but not least, you guys have been wanting this for a long time. The most requested person to have on Roundtable's Magic since we started here. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Dr. Wolf.
Greetings and good evening, one and all.
I thought he'd be taller.
He's a wolf. What did you expect?
Have you ever met me in real life?
He is the exact
that's right, I
opposite
have.
of that.
Yeah, both he and Shaquille O'Neal would have a really good competition.
To give you guys a bit of context, I'm like 6'1", 6'2". He's a little bit taller than me, and that's kind of frightening.
That is scary. That is scary. I am going to be wearing umbrellas from now on.
How do you think I feel? I have to tilt my head back until it's touching the back of my back just to look up.
Oh, jeez. But anyways, today's episode that we have here is Hurricane Fluttershy.
Woo!
Yay!
Yay!
This is going to be an interesting episode. I believe one of us said before that we weren't going to touch this episode, but given that we have Dr. Wolf with us, it seems that only fitting that we at least make one or two exceptions to that rule. So,
Basically, that means we don't have a choice.
well, I was going to say it a different way, Will, but, you know, that works too. Anyway, so who are we going to get this started off with? Well, don't everybody jump at once.
I'll
Any,
start.
mini, miny, mo?
I'll start.
Okay, Will's going to start first. Oh, Doc, real quick thing about how we do things on Roundtable. We pick one thing that we liked, and then we pass it to someone else. Then we go in reverse order, and then one thing you didn't like. Just to lay out how this goes. So, Will, go ahead and get started.
All right. I'll have to say this. One thing I really did enjoy. Okay, I'm just gonna make a preface here. Rainbow Dash is honestly not my favorite amongst the main six. I actually kind of rank her like kind of low, but but let me get to my point. She was at her absolute best.
Woo!
In this episode. If there's one thing that I can applaud the show writers, is that Cindy Morrow really knows how to write Rainbow Dash very, very well. Mm-hmm. Like, this was a good example, and then we also have her comeback in Tanks for the Memories. So, but yeah, Rainbow Dash, she was in her top form here. She wasn't the arrogant sort of brash boaster that we've come to expect. She actually tries to influence and inspire all the other Pegasi to push themselves to the limit so that they can do this very important task for the rest of Equestria. And sure, there was like this little sidetrack thing about, trying to break the wing power record, but, partway through it, she drops that just for the sake of everybody else, and I can appreciate that of Rainbow Dash. It proves that this is one of her episodes where she shows more dimensions than we know her for, and like I said, big props to Cindy Morrow. She is best Rainbow Dash writer.
All right, well said. Who do you pass it off to, Will?
Let's see. I think I will pass it on to Jasper.
Dankeschön. Well, it's been a while since I've seen this episode until a few minutes ago, but the one thing I definitely can take away from this episode is the introduction of the most inspirational and glorious character of all, Bulk Biceps.
Yeah!
Yeah!
Seriously, his design is out there, his voice is deep, he's throughout the episode, all the others is yeah! And it's just so inspirational, and I love him for it.
Was that it?
And then you just wait up the later seasons until he becomes a big softie.
Hey, he is a softie you can't help but enjoy.
Considering that he tries out for the Wonderbolts later on the season is impressive too. I mean, he's great with muscles, obviously, but he seems to have neglected the more important part of being a Pegasus, his wings.
Plus, I don't know, I always crack up at the comically wimpy muscular guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it wrong that I want to know more about this character? I know he had his standout moments in this Rainbow Falls, Wonderbolt Academy, and what was it, On Your Marks? I want to know more about this character.
Same. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And now I pass it off to Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Moo, British Ninja.
Well, you did take my point about introducing Snowflake, which is easily one of my favorite parts about this episode. So I guess I'll just talk about how real this episode feels. And of course, it's in a fantasy setting, and it's all got different ways of explaining different emotional drama points. But just the conflict of Fluttershy feeling that she can't make a difference, feeling that she can't add anything, or that she feels almost bullied. And even though they're not bullying her, they don't mean to offend her, but she feels like her performance, she's almost bullying herself in a certain way, and that brings a lot of catharsis out of me. That brings a lot of relatable feelings out of me. And the way that the show paints in a fictional world real life issues is just a fantastic thing. I love it. It's one of the reasons I love the show so much. And I suppose I shall pass it on to... Has Blissy gone?
Not yet.
I shall pass it on to the sick horse.
I am not a sick horse.
You're a sick alicorn.
pony.
My bad.
That's better. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna jump from your point. What I loved about this episode was several morals going on here, and not just one,
you
but
took
several.
what I was gonna say.
Oh, Pat.
Now you know how I feel.
All right, continue on. Continue on, Bliss.
It's the moral of that it's not about standing up for yourself or being brave. It's about accepting that you can bring something to the table. You can make a difference, even no matter how small it is. One little light can make such a big difference in a dark room. And that's what I loved about that episode even more. It's even though we may feel small and insignificant, we really do bring something important to our world when you think about it. Everybody has something unique to bring, no matter how big or small. And I think that's important for people who may not be a celebrity or a president or a queen or a lord or a leader of some sort, but you could still make a difference. And that's what I liked about it.
All right.
Does Goldie want to go since I took his point?
You only talk. Wow, this is awkward. There's actually something. There's something more about that moral in which, I don't want to say too much of because it's not my turn.
No, I just picked you.
Oh, okay. Well, I am getting a little overreactive here, and that's because I'm ecstatic talking about this episode. In case some of you haven't put the pieces together, Hurricane Fluttershy has been my favorite episode of the entire series. There's something about this episode that no other episode has ever topped off. Not even, like, Pinkie Pride came very, very close. That's my, like, second favorite episode of the series. But to add on more to what Bliss is saying, and this is the biggest reason why I love this episode, there's a lot of interesting messages that you can find off of this episode. Because the way this episode portrays the difficulties in life of dealing with your past issues and how it's affecting you now, overstepping your boundary or having to step out of your comfort zone and take on so many different kinds of obstacles that this episode was carrying. One of which is the obvious about learning to overcome your child phobias. Another of which is that sometimes whatever little contribution you can have can still make a big difference. And I think that's a very, very good message, that even if you have the most minimal capabilities or skills you have, you can still make a difference. And along with that, there's the first half of the episode where Fluttershy tries to do her best and only had 2.3 wing power or something like that on that speedometer.
Yeah.
Which shows that sometimes even if you do your closest, I was close to seeing the D word, but if you did your closest and did everything with all your might, you're not going to succeed. Maybe the first time you won't succeed. Sometimes it takes a while to overcome what you have to overcome. And even just the morals off of what Rainbow Dash was doing, because as Will pointed out, Rainbow Dash was at her absolute best, encouraging others, including Fluttershy, a part of which is that she wanted to create the best record for the speedometer of the amount of wing power when it came to delivering the water to Cloudsdale, and they had to use this tornado and all this wing power to form together. But the fact that so many people were given a flu, which became a little bit of a thing in the background, and it took into effect at the climax for Fluttershy to step in, it shows that despite that there's not enough people, she knows that it's still important that you have to do this. It's setting more of your priorities first instead of just what you want to do to impress somebody who you look up to. And she wanted to impress Spitfire. So there's just so many good lessons to take off of this, and I don't think any other episode has come close to that. Some people could argue about it, and that's perfectly fine. But yeah, maybe I don't want to stand here and gush too much about this episode, so I'm going to pass it off to... Has Dr. Wolf gone yet?
Nope.
No.
All right, Dr. Wolf, I will pass it on to you.
Very well. I imagine most of what I had intended to say has already been covered, but I did want to point out how much I appreciate that this episode kind of breaks cliche in that you get this moment of failure and despair after the montage. Whereas in most other forms of media, it's the other way around. You have the montage of Fluttershy overcoming her fears and finding confidence in herself and pushing herself harder than she ever has before. And like Golden Fox said, the wing power is only still 2.3. That hits a very real point that so many of us can relate to, but it also breaks cliche, breaks expectation, because so many other forms of media, it's the moment of despair that leads to the montage. And in this case, you've got despair on both sides. It's kind of like sandwiched between the despair, that even after the montage, you still don't quite get what you want. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
In a sense, I'm gonna borrow something from Robot Chicken. What a twist!
I kind of wanted to deliver my 2 cents. Sorry, did I interrupt anyone?
No, you're fine.
Well, hang
Okay.
on. Doc, did you have anything else you wanted to add first? Or was that
Well,
it?
not at the moment, but I wasn't sure if anyone wanted to respond to that before I passed on to Toon, who I believe is the last who hasn't said anything yet.
Yeah.
Right.
My apologies.
You're
So,
good.
All right.
You're
So, am I going now or?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go
All
for
right.
it.
So, I really like this episode, not for the reasons that you would think. I think this is a great episode that helps bring out the best in not just Rainbow Dash, but also Fluttershy. There's a reason that these two were paired up, because they work so well off of each other. I think that Dash and Fluttershy are a not often used combo on screen. They seem to work really well with not only how they have great chemistry together, but also how they can improve through each other. You have Dash, who is wanting to, push everyone to, succeed at getting the water up to Cloudsdale. And then you have Fluttershy, who is not so sure that she can do this, and struggles just to keep up. But it's through Dash's encouragement, eventually, that gets it all working together. I think these two work really well off of each other, and this is one of my favorite episodes because of that point. It's a great episode that shows Dash at her best, because for a while, people were just looking at Dash as just this obnoxious, arrogant character. But you see a little bit of that here, but they show some maturity to her when it comes to this. And then with Fluttershy, you have the usual shyness to her character, but even through the failure, she's still able to push through. So that, I think, is what works well between them, the chemistry between them.
May I add my 2 cents?
Go ahead, Bliss.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I loved, just to give my 2 cents about Rainbow Dash, because, that the first time around when they did the twister, and it fails, pretty bad, Rainbow Dash says, we gotta do it one more time, but Twilight immediately intervened, saying, no, you guys don't have enough power, you should quit, it's not safe, and I'm like, yeah, this is starting to get dangerous, it looks like everybody's getting kind of beat up here, but Dash is like, one more time, I need to know we gave it our all. I'm like, okay, it's not about risking others' safety. It was about whether or not they could at least try to do a job, because they indeed had a job to do. And nobody protested when she said, come on, guys, let's give it one more go. And they all said, yeah, one more time. And I just like that teamwork to try one more time. Pretty inspirational right there.
Yeah, if I may add my 2 cents on going back on what Toon said. Yeah, I agree. I do like how Fluttershy and Rainbow, like, it's the concept of two complete opposites compensating for each other, and yeah, also going after what Bliss said. Yeah, it is kind of inspirational that Rainbow is pushing them to try at least one more time, because they got it right on their second try. It's not like they kept on trying without Fluttershy and failing 10 times over, which I think would have been pretty tedious. But that is something nice to take away from that.
It also helps that they actually have a history together, because didn't they know each other since they were fillies?
Yep.
At flight school, yeah.
I remember that. I also wanted to throw something out on this. This is kind of silly. Toon, why do I have a feel like, am I the only one who thinks that the interactions between Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash remind me of you and me? Especially for Analysis Daily.
Oh, yeah, definitely, dude. Like, I can see that, too. I honestly can see that between us. Mainly because I know that, you struggle with some stuff, but here I am, Coach Toon coming on in. Like, all right, Fluttershy, you're gonna eat lightning and you're gonna crap thunder. You got this. Come on. Step up to the plate.
Oh,
you can do it.
You literally said the C word in front of the doc.
I said,
shame on you.
Crap is not a bad word. It's okay.
$5 is
Try and
swear
avoid
jar.
such language. Yep, $5 in the swear jar, Toon.
But I'm
You know
the
the rules.
okay. If you're Rainbow Dash, I guess I'm the Applejack then.
Yeah. Oh, you're the Twilight.
Do we even have to say what I am?
I'm OCD, yes, just like Twilight, but Applejack. I would think I bounce off like you, like Applejack would bounce off Rainbow Dash. Is that we're both competitive against each other?
I mean, I was going to think that you're Applejack for a different reason. But anyway, let's get to a... Let's get to the negative point. I don't have many negative problems with this episode. The only thing that I have a problem with, and I'm glad that I'm going first to say this, what was the point of Spitfire and why didn't she help? Like,
God damn it,
You
you're so
stole
blind.
my point.
no,
Yep.
now Ninja, you go to the swear jar on that, okay? Like, Spitfire is just standing there. Oh, we need help. We need just a little bit more firepower, and Spitfire's like, meh, they got this.
Am I gonna make it to my next appointment?
I think I can explain that. It wouldn't help much, but every time I've seen Spitfire flown around, she's left a trail of smoke. And I don't know if you would want to get that smoke in the water. Insert Deep Purple reference here.
I thought that was just
you know what?
show.
Yeah, you know what? That is actually a good point. Like, the Wonderbolts have, like, especially like in seasons 1 and 2, they have been shown to, leave these little streaks behind whenever they do their air shows. And yeah, you know what? That is a good point. It would probably,
I have a feeling
mucky up the other Pegasus vision. So,
Plus, it doesn't really help that the Wonderbolts aren't that good anyway.
Oh.
Ooh, burn.
I have my own sort of point. That
Ooh,
would
did I
defeat
say that out loud?
And that's that Spitfire wouldn't even need to go anywhere near her top speed because they were only a Fluttershy away from reaching their goal. I don't believe that the smoke is 100. Like, sure, when they're going fast, like it's burning tires,
Yeah.
that makes sense, yeah.
I have I wrote a piece on Spitfire because there are not many things to really nag on this episode for. It's very tightly closed. It gets out what it wants to say.
Okay,
I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
I will recover.
All right. That's my bad point. I'm going to pass it back to Doc. What was one thing you didn't like about this episode, Doc?
I think most of us were trying to think of Spitfire when we were thinking of bad points in this episode.
Fun
Yes.
fact.
I wasn't.
Spitfire wasn't going to be my negative point either.
Nah, most of us.
Most of us.
I actually got something that's
let me
not
think.
Spitfire.
There really isn't much bad you could lay out for this episode. You'd have to really reach to find something, anything. Now, I don't know if anyone had mentioned this during the good points, but this is by far the most supportive we've ever seen Angel Bunny in the entire series.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow,
Thank
he's
you.
right.
Now, with that in mind, could the fact that you see Angel Bunny being this nice actually be considered a negative when you look at the other episodes and realize just how devious and underhanded and just spoiled he is when you see how good he can be?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's really reaching because this is a negative point for every episode outside of Hurricane Fluttershy. It's just about the character overall of Angel Bunny.
Yeah.
You've seen
I
how
see what you
good
mean.
he can be, how supportive he can be. And you realize he doesn't choose to be supportive at most every other point in all of his appearances. Especially also in Season 2, just a few episodes before this point.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Uh,
Yeah. He kicked Fluttershy out of the cottage because he didn't get the cherry on top over something that he was bothering her to get. Just
Forget kicking her out. He slapped her.
yeah.
Anyone else feel like Hassan Pfeffer?
Anyways,
okay,
it's
I have a
really
perfect-
stretching a negative point.
Yeah.
It's just basically having this wide range of Angel Bunny being this really, really supportive character in this episode, but you go outside this episode and it's such a contrast.
Indeed.
I believe I found the simple solution to why Angel Bunny is like this during this one time in this specific episode. Temporary retcon.
Ooh.
But it is simply a different writer's interpretation of what Angel Bunny is.
It's a retcon we'd like to see more of, am I right?
Yeah.
I totally...
Honestly, yeah.
I totally get what Doc's saying. Consistency is an issue, especially with a past episode, because that sets a benchmark for what it could be, and knowing that the show doesn't live up to that, and, you know, other people do just see Angel Bunny's character as an angry roommate, I suppose.
Well, then again, like, I think the reason for that is, like, at least to my knowledge, I think each writer writes their script just by themselves, and not like they don't have anybody else to work off of. So I don't think they really have much privilege of seeing how the other writers interpret each character. But again, I could be false, but I think that's one thing to consider. Because I've heard like either like during panels or interviews that most, if not each, if every single one of the writers has to write it by themselves. Unless it's like a duo team, like Sonko and Lewis.
Yeah.
So.
Well, can anyone come up with a negative point that you have to really reach that far in order to actually talk about?
I actually got one.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's not really my turn, but I do have one.
Well, hang on.
Well, who would come after me? Is that Golden Fox come next?
Yes, we're going in reverse order. So, Fox, you're
yeah,
next.
So, I think this is something that I have been saying over a lot of episodes, one of which I even got into an argument about. No episode is perfect. And the episode that I did get into an argument about was, what is it called? Suited for Success, the one with Art of the Dress, Rarity, and everything. To say that an episode is perfect is a very naive statement. There's always going to be flaws. There's always going to be something that isn't, like a complete 100% perfection. And I actually take that as also a compliment, because looking for flaws encourages you to improve yourself. And the more you improve, the better you get. There is no end point of making yourself better. Like Keyframe said it best, perfection is a flaw in and of itself. Now, when I go to talk about the thing I didn't like about Hurricane Fluttershy, yeah, I am going to point it out. It's probably going to be arguable. The thing I didn't like in this episode was how a little too cheesy the dialogue was, especially near the end. When you hear things like, "You did it!" These kind of lines is something you would hear off of a preschool show. And it felt like it didn't bug me, but knowing that I could see why some people would not like the episode because of that, because it feels like you're being spoken down to. And that could just be a thing with Friendship is Magic, that they'll have certain cheesy cliche lines that would be carried throughout the series. So I didn't let it bother me that much. Oh, I'm sorry. What?
No, you go ahead. I was just going to add. Yeah, honestly, I can sort of see where you're coming from, because that's one sort of nitpick I had when I first saw Gauntlet of Fire. Like even though it is a season, even though it was a season 6 episode, and everybody had time to improve. Yeah, most of the dialogue still felt a little season 1-ish. I mean, it didn't diminish my enjoyment of Gauntlet of Fire. I still enjoy it. I think it's one of the best episodes of the whole show. But
oh, absolutely.
But yeah, but I can see where you're coming from about how, like it still feels like a bit childish at times, but at the same time, it doesn't diminish the enjoyment of it.
Right. So that's something that I didn't have had an issue with personally. I agree that what everybody else said about Spitfire. So yeah, Bliss, I pass it back to you.
Hold on. Thought I was gonna sneeze there. Oh, okay, I'm all right. Okay. So yeah, I would call this a minor nitpick. It was for comedy relief, and I know why Rainbow Dash did it. But still, reality, if either one of you were to dunk a bucket of water on me, I'd be very, very upset with you.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
I mean, she was in a cute purple robe. I know she was faking the pox, but still, you don't just dump a bucket of water on your friend like that. All you could have done is walk up to her and rub a spot off to prove a point. But she dumped a bucket of water on her instead. That was kind of ooh. But then again, Angel Bunny has done worse, so...
Yeah,
maybe Rainbow Dash just wanted Fluttershy to be an early contender for the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge.
Hi, 2015. How are you doing?
Job, what?
Like, I'm telling you this right now. If either one of you prank me with a bucket of water on top of me, we're not friends anymore.
Hey, I remember doing that at BabsCon 2015. That was funny. Remember, Will?
The Rainbow Dash will say that. Oh, no.
Repress the memories.
No, sorry. I kind of want to add on to what Bliss said about the whole water bucket thing. Fluttershy does a really, really good job acting sick. No sarcasm needed.
Academy Award material there. Anyways, let's get back on track.
Yeah.
So, I believe, Bliss, that was you?
Yeah, I think Ninja's next.
Okay.
All right. So, because all of the Spitfire, I suppose, was taken, I suppose I would go with the silliest and stupidest joke that came out of this episode that took over the fandom, and I really found it annoying, was I would like to be a tree.
Oh, God.
But
that was more confirming a joke from a much earlier episode, though, wasn't it? It was like building on a joke that the writers knew was a big deal in the fandom at the time, wasn't it?
I suppose.
I think so. It was going back to what Dr. Wolf said. Yeah, the comedy here, there were a lot of throwbacks, like especially like I like to be a tree, and I'm sure if Voice were here, he would touch upon this. Twilight Sparkle going, do I look like I speak squirrel?
Oh,
that was very nice.
Does touch squirrels. But
anywho, while I joke, I do have a more fairly critical answer, I suppose, and you're free to disagree with me. And that's the consistency of Fluttershy herself and the struggles that she goes through. Much like Angel, she flip-flops on her personality from time to time. She can be afraid of her own shadow. Sometimes she's completely fine with walking around with normal people. This episode, while it's awesome, it doesn't change Fluttershy's problem of stage fright and worthlessness. It just just look at Villy Vanilli. It's just sort of comes back after a while. Even though she says it can develop her, that it's not backed up or built upon until much later on in the show.
I can kind of see that, but if I were to add on something, it looks like she's like one of those characters who it should, I would guess it's obvious, but it's a cartoon. She's a character who goes through a lot of anxiety, and even if you go to overcome some adversaries, that doesn't mean you're going to encounter them again.
Very true, very true. And while I understand that it's a cartoon and needs to exaggerate a lot of things, if she suffers from such severe anxiety to the point where she is hallucinating eyeballs staring at her, then, well, I'm glad we have a doctor in the call with us. I would send her off to doctor.
Can I argue
Go
something?
ahead.
You said between Philly Vanilli, which I get your point right there. However, I tend to argue that I think those situations were slightly a little different because in this case, this was a job. All the pigs say had this one job to do. It wasn't about performing in front of an audience. It was about doing a job. She was just afraid of failing in front of her peers, which totally get. I wouldn't want to fail in front of my peers if I were doing a job. But with Philly Vanilli, it was something she loves to do, but is too afraid to let others see it because she's got terrible stage fright. I suppose those two are one of the same, but the only reason why she was able to conquer it in Hurricane Fluttershy is because, oh, hey, I'm doing it. Okay, I can participate with others and get the job done.
Yeah, and plus two, I mean, going back to, the comparisons between this and Philly Vanilli, honestly, with Hurricane Fluttershy, she wasn't really doing it in front of an audience, per se. The only sort of quote-unquote audience was really Spitfire. I mean, one person, one pony versus, a crowd of, like a couple, like up to 10 or 20, stuff like that in Philly Vanilli. I can see where you're getting at, Ninja, but the circumstances, they do sort of differentiate. And plus two, like, if I may add, like, no character, like, sometimes characters need to learn the same moral twice. I mean, like, once you learn it once, I mean, it doesn't completely black out the possibility of facing it again after so long.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I understand. If I may respond, like, while the context is different to the situation, it does boil down to the core issue of she is afraid of being embarrassed in a group. She's afraid of failure of the situation, that thus causing embarrassment, thus causing ridicule and stuff like that she is so fearing of.
If I were to add, if I were to compare another episode that does create somewhat of a continuity issue, and this is probably going to be a bit of an uproar, Magic Duel. Because in that episode, she was sent to find Twilight in the Everfree Forest, and we have a scene where she was being very fearful and not cooperating to find Twilight at a time when the city of Ponyville, sorry for the name.
You were about to say Townsville, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
City of Townsville.
No, but nonetheless, she was chickening out and completely taking away the fact that over a serious situation, she I wouldn't really compare this much to Hurricane Fluttershy, but more of comparing what she did in Dragonshy, where she stood up for her friends. And yet here in this in Magic Duel, she goes being a complete coward, refusing to enter the Everfree Forest, despite that she's entered there multiple times, on behalf of other situations, including Stairmaster, which I hated the episode, but she was willing to go in there to find the CMC. So, out of all those situations, she chooses to not go in there, and I think that's something that puts a bad point on Fluttershy's character as far as consistency goes.
You know, sorry to cut off anyone, I suppose, but it goes back. The reason I thought of this is because of what Doc mentioned earlier, and how, while it's not necessarily a massive problem with this episode, it is a shame to see all of this potential go to waste, to see her flip-flop so much between being completely fine with entering the Everfree Forest and then being completely terrified of the mere process thought of doing it. And while characters do need to learn lessons over and over again, I very much understand that. It doesn't completely get rid of the problem. Acknowledging that this has happened before, or acknowledging achievements, it would go a long way, and I feel like this show missed out the mark on that.
Well,
that makes sense.
The show has a flex of continuity, but I tend to find reasoning behind it, I guess. Like, I figured it's not, I mean, every hour of the day that, like, I'm claustrophobic. Like, I might be not as scared to go to a cave, but I'm scared to fit under a garage door or crack.
Again, allow me to reiterate, I love this episode. I think a lot of us do here.
Yeah,
like, I really am pushing it. Like, I cannot find a direct, I really hated this about this episode, you know? My biggest nitpick is that the rest of the show isn't like it, so...
Wow. Who do you pass it back to, Ninja?
Yeah.
I believe, was Joey before me?
Yeah,
Yes, because he mentioned Snowflake.
Right, home stretch, guys. Let's do this.
All right. This is kind of a small thing, but the one thing that irked me the most about this episode was that coach in Fluttershy's flashback.
Yes!
It's just with a straight face, no remorse, no regrets, doesn't even blink, he just kicks Fluttershy right off the cloud.
You know what that reminds me of? That teacher in Newbie Dash.
I think we can all unanimously agree that flight instructors in Cloudsdale, aside from Rainbow Dash, kind of suck at their job.
Yeah.
That's like a kindergarten teacher pushing a kid up the monkey bars in the hopes that they'll grab the bar.
Just picture it. What if she kept falling? What if she just... Now the valley is all red and yellow. Are you happy, Mr. Gym Teacher? Are you happy?
Clearly had a safety cloud underneath, but still, that is not exactly a great way to motivate a kid to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is just one thing that is one thing that a lot of shows these days keep doing. The adults acting like irresponsible idiots. Like half the adults on the Dan Schneider shows are doing it, and Peter Griffin. I loathe him the most. We need more responsible adults.
Yeah.
I'm an adult. I love that.
Anyways.
But yeah, just the guy was a jerk, and that just irks the. Well, you know. And so I pass it off to my dear bruiser in comedy, Thespio.
Dankeschön. But yeah, honestly, like the rest of you guys, I don't really have much, like, any glaring sort of negatives. I guess the one nitpick that I'm surprised nobody has actually talked about, at least to my knowledge, and I'm talking about, like, either here or, like, you know, in general. Like, when Fluttershy is, you know, like, running away after seeing Flitter and Cloud Chaser laughing at her, the rest of the Pegasi don't really... I mean, I know they're focused on, you know, trying to, you know, make sure their stamina and wing power stays up, but they don't really... Rainbow Dash is the only one that actually goes to Fluttershy's aid, while some of the rest of the other Pegasi see how much turmoil she's going through and, you know, don't go in to help aid her. But again, it's just a little small thing. It's not really significant. That's just one thing that did kind of irk me. I mean, this is supposed to be a team effort, and if I were in that position, I would be alongside Rainbow Dash to try and comfort her.
Right.
Well, maybe they felt a little awkward to go and help because they didn't know how to deal with it. Because she clearly looks... I mean, she was bawling. She wasn't just upset. She was bawling with tears, like hysteric.
Oh, yeah.
But I get what you're saying there. I kind of wish, like, Twilight or Rainbow Dash went up to those two and say, hey, could you have been any more subtle? They're
Yeah,
like,
or
giggling, and she's like, yeah, but that's Fluttershy you're giggling at.
Yeah, or at the very least, you know, them saying that they're not laughing out of malice, they're just giggling at the fact that's like, oh, Fluttershy's gonna help, you know, maybe we might achieve this after all. So they're all doing it in a good sport, but they don't really, you know, take the time to really correct that and make that knowledgeable to Fluttershy to, you know, give her the context of why they're doing it. But again, it's just a small and insignificant thing that in the long run doesn't really matter. It's just one thing that I just kind of noticed. And yeah, other than that, still Hurricane Fluttershy, it's good. Really good.
Yeah.
You know, I think it'd be fairly safe to say that because Fluttershy is such an introvert that not many people outside of the main six even know her very well.
That's a good point. But to be fair, I mean, aside from maybe one person who I will respectfully keep nameless, I have never met someone that so introverted before. And so quite frankly, it's still, I mean, I'm one of those where I feel like I can adapt to other people's needs personality-wise, as long as I don't suffer, or as long as I don't drop my own morals and ethics in the process, and I can still be me. But for someone to be that ultra sensitive because, oh, you made a little mistake, or I mean, then again, I'm kind of a hypocrite because it's like, well, there'll be moments where it'll take so much to get me upset, and then there'll be days where I get one nasty comment on my DeviantArt or my YouTube, and I just shatter because I'm having one of those days. But that's part being I mean, she's like full-blown introverted. I would argue that I'm kind of a healthy intro/extro. I get extroverted in my work. Get extroverted when I'm with my friends and at cons. But every now and then I like to seclude myself, and I have moments where I'm sensitive. But she's sensitive all the time. That must be so horribly exhausting.
It's why she likes to live a quiet life, I suppose.
Indeed.
Yeah, I can see that.
That depends, yeah.
So, I think that covers almost everything, doesn't it?
I think it does.
Jam watches. Thank you for following.
Well, actually, no, I wanted to add something a little more, and this was this is driving back to when Doc was talking about the episode Breaking Cliches, and this was just me giving my 2 cents. As far as formulas or cliches go, it doesn't bother me that much as long as you're able to pull it off well or pull it off in such a way that it's passable. Because if it feels like the same kind of formula and you know what's going to happen in the next scene after the next scene to the point where either an episode or a movie doesn't even try, it's not going to feel engaging. You already know what's going to happen and you just don't care. You can argue that there are some stories that carry a formula, you know what's going to happen, but it can be executed in such a way that it will engage you and it will make you want that to happen because of how much you care for the character, on the turmoil or the conflict they are encountering.
That proves a good point. It actually goes back to something that Katie, my girlfriend, likes to mention to me. All art is original, therefore all art is stolen.
Ooh.
Yes, this
like in a sense, let's face it, originality is a very fickle concept to really pull off anymore. Everything is based on something, so therefore the originality is based off of something else original. So it keeps on going back and forth. But
they call it a remix.
Yeah,
everybody steals from everybody.
But if you're at least able to make it unique enough, like what Golden Fox said, if you want this to happen, like if you want the characters to go through this, even though you know it is going to happen in the end, you're still cheering for them. Like I think I remember a voice saying something. It's not the outcome that matters; it's the journey towards that outcome. I think that's what he said.
Yeah, Well, also Biter said that too, that it's the journey that matters the most and not just the destination.
Right.
And for the journey, sorry.
No, I was about to say, like, I think with that said, we've kind of been rambling on a lot, so I think maybe, would this be a good time to wrap up, maybe?
Yes, yeah. I think it
One more question. Just one more question. How many of you cried in this episode?
I did.
One more thing.
Okay.
All right. Oh, someone has informed me that we've reached 100 viewers. That is the most viewers I think we have ever had live during one of these.
Nice.
So, thank you to all of you. All right. I think this is a good place to wrap it up. So, chat, if you've made it this far, usually I'd ask Keyframe, what should we put here? But Ninja,
I know.
What should we put here?
They need to put "Bless you, Blissy."
Hashtag Bless you, Blissy.
Here's a question. Actually, I have a question for the commenters.
Fox, how many questions you got, man?
No. But like this is like
20 questions.
So there's a hashtag, but there's also a question to the commenters when they see the video on YouTube.
Ah, that's right. Okay, go ahead, Fox.
Okay, what is your biggest child phobia?
Well, geez, that's awfully personal, ain't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's appropriate. Hey, Chad, what's the one phobia that you have the most? I guess that's very unconventional. I like it. So, once again, thank you all for tuning into this live. As always, if you like to follow this live, go ahead to my Twitch. That's where I do roundtables, usually on, oh dear, Doc dropped. Oh well.
He's a busy guy.
I guess he is a busy guy. But yeah, you know where to follow me. You've done this whole song and dance thingy before. So, once again, thank you for tuning into Roundtable is Magic. As always, we'd like to wish you all a great rest of your day. Holy crap, Bliss, you and I made it through this. We survived.
You just said the C word again.
But you sound so much better to me.
I guess.
Now go get some
we can
rest.
finally swear again, son of a...
And before we tune off, let's give a big thank you again. Even though he dropped, let's give a big thanks to Dr. Wolf for joining us. And,
Yay!
Thanks for having thanks for having both me and Jasper on again. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you for being great last-minute stand-ins. You guys are always great. You guys are always welcome back.
You should really have us on more often. Blink, blink.
So cool, they say.
Donasters.
To the both Denaster group. Yep. So, join us next week, or actually, well, this upcoming Sunday, where we will have the episode that you guys picked, which is, conveniently enough, another Fluttershy episode, Putting Your Hoof Down.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
That'll be
Boy.
fun.
This is gonna be a fun time.
Have fun.
I think I'm gonna need to fill up that swear jar.
Oh, yes.
As always, thank you for watching. From all of us at Roundtable, it's Magic. Thank you, and stay awesome.
Peace.